Good afternoon. We ready to go? Everybody's excited? Happy Dreamforce. That was a little weak. Come on, let's try that again. Happy Dreamforce. Yes, that's what I want to hear. All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Kate Lassard. I'm a lead admin evangelist here at Salesforce, and I am really excited to talk to you today about why admins should learn dev fundamentals. But before we do that, just a reminder that Salesforce is a publicly traded company, and as a customer, please remember to make your purchasing decisions based on products and services that are currently available. And let's kick off the day with a little attitude of gratitude. Thank you so much for being here, for taking the time to come to Dreamforce, to learn, to invest in yourselves. You have so many sessions that you get to choose from. I'm so honored that you're here and hope that I can share with you a little bit of my passion as well as why admins should learn dev fundamentals to become stronger Salesforce administrators. So to do that, I want to start off talking a little bit about an admin journey, understanding fully that we all are on a different path and that you might not see yourself in the exact same spot in your journey as I am, but you also might be able to identify places that have been in my journey that lead you to why you are taking that next step, why you're here, why you're considering learning dev fundamentals. So very quickly on my background, I did not start out in technology. My master's degree is in art history and museum studies, which I do very little with these days. It's all right. I still really enjoy art. I found Salesforce, or maybe it found me, when I was working for a nonprofit. And I learned really quickly that this was something that I really wanted to invest in and make my career. Now, if you've ever worked at a nonprofit or know anyone that's worked at a nonprofit, you probably know that nonprofit workers wear a lot of different hats. So investing in Salesforce and making that your full-time career became really difficult for me to do. So I went and found a Salesforce administrator job where I could learn from a team. So that's us going along the journey here. After several years in that role, decided that I wanted to lead a team of Salesforce admins and mentor others. And this was kind of a tipping point for me, because if you've ever gone from being an individual contributor to being a people manager, you go from this situation that you don't anticipate. You have goals as an individual contributor given to you, things that you should be learning, resources and things that you might be researching for your organization based on your industry, learning what certification is next. Those things are kind of provided to you. And then when you become a manager, it becomes your job to do that for others and for yourself, to identify what that next step in your learning process should be. So at the time, the business analyst role and the architect role did exist, but they weren't so widely publicized. So I was like, okay, time to go learn to be a developer. I enrolled in Rad Women, which for any of you that are unfamiliar with this, it's Radical Apex Developers. And it is a class that teaches those who identify as women and have experience as Salesforce admins to learn Apex. I learned a ton in that program, but the absolute number one thing that I learned about myself was that I did not want to be a developer. I'm glad that you're laughing, because at the time, it was a really big struggle and it hit me hard. I was like, oh my gosh, did I waste a couple months of my life while I was trying to do a cross-country move? Did I waste all this time learning these things, doing this homework, completing this graduation project to just be back in the exact same spot that I was in? And the answer is no. Any type of learning is investing in yourself, even if it doesn't take you where you think you want to be. So that did have to take a couple of months to resonate and settle in. I will admit it took longer than I would have liked, but I had one of those epiphany moments where I was doing something in Salesforce. It was a seemingly impossible challenge, and all the pieces just came together. And I realized it was because of what I learned, the dev fundamentals that I had learned, that I had a broader understanding of the platform and how Salesforce worked as a whole. So that brings us today to this conversation and why admins should learn dev fundamentals. I love this quote by Rebecca Saar, Senior Director of Admin Marketing. She says that a Salesforce admin best understands how to make the platform work for their company's goals. As Salesforce admins, We own the product management of Salesforce. It's one of the core responsibilities that we talk about. We know the business processes. We know how things have to happen. And even more than that, we know the users. So it's very important for Salesforce admins to have a big understanding, big picture understanding of how the platform works as a whole. Now, I say that, but I don't mean that as an admin, you have to know how to do all of the things. Salesforce is huge. There are new innovations rolled out regularly. How many new things have you heard about at Dreamforce already? And it's just day 2. New things are happening all the time. There are so many different clouds, different products, different industries that you can specialize in. And even in the same industry, you might work for one organization and do things one way and leverage a certain set of features. And then you go to another organization in the same industry and do something completely different, use different features, have different business processes. So Salesforce is huge. You don't need to learn how to do all the things, but you do need to know as an admin what is possible, that big picture. Also, you're always going to have a chance to work with other Salesforce professionals. Even as a solo admin, you're communicating with people in the community. You're coming to events like Dreamforce or maybe some community conferences or your community group meetings. And you need to be able to speak the same language and collaborate and work with developers. I will take this the other way and say that in addition to admins learning dev fundamentals, I do also think it's really important for developers to learn how to do things declaratively so they can have that same big picture understanding and we can make better decisions together to support our customers, whether they're external or internal customers or our users. All right, so if that didn't incentivize you enough as to why you as an admin should learn dev fundamentals, I want to share 4 very specific dev fundamentals that I learned through this program that I use every single week as a Salesforce admin. And I should preface this by saying I went through Rad Women in 2019. So when I say every week, it's not just something that I've been doing a little bit. It's been several years, tried and true. So the first thing I want to talk about is pseudocode. Pseudocode, a definition, is code that's written out in plain language. So this is what the code is doing. If you've ever seen code commenting, that's what the goal is here. It's breaking it down step by step, what the process is, what the code should be doing. Hopefully you've seen good code commenting. Sometimes there's bad code commenting that doesn't do this effectively. So why is this important for admins? When do we use this? Let's think about when that's a good example. All right, the first exercise that we did, day 1 of Rad Women, was try out pseudocode. As a group, my cohort was responsible for thinking of something that we all knew how to do really well. My group decided that we knew how to make the perfect grilled cheese sandwich. I maintain that I still can do that. Before we went through this process and I really learned and understood pseudocode, these were the steps I came up with. So if you look at these 4 very descriptive steps, if you know what a grilled cheese is, if you've had one before, if you've made one before, you might be like, yep, that seems about right. But think back when you were a new Salesforce user or when you were training a new Salesforce user. Imagine that someone said to you, okay, go open up the app launcher, find the sales console, and create a new account. Do you know how to do that just inherently? You could probably figure it out, fill it around, find the tabs. But what if someone said to you instead, okay, look at the top left-hand corner of the page. You're going to see 9 dots. They light up like a rainbow when you hover over them. Looks kind of like a waffle. Click there. That's your app launcher. This opens up all of the applications that you have access to in Salesforce. One of them is going to be called Sales Console. Click that. Great. Now you see Home on a tab at the top. Click the down arrow next to it. Find accounts. Let's walk through creating a new account, etc., etc. So, after learning about pseudocode and why this was valuable, this is where we landed as a team. And I'll admit, I cut out a couple of steps to fit it on this slide. You'll see we have some preparation instructions, including how many slices of bread we need, how much butter we need, how high to turn on the stove, the actual process of going through and making and assembling the sandwich, and then going all the way through and making that. I'll call out as well, not just for training, but these are really helpful tools to use when you're creating documentation. So if you create any type of job scripts or help aids or any screenshot documentation for your users, really helpful to use this process as well. All right, the next dev fundamental, and we're gonna get a little bit progressively more challenging as we go. Know your variables. The most fun part about being a Salesforce admin is actually building on the platform. Yeah, I've got some nods. Okay, good. Not just me. So when you're building things in Salesforce, you're going to create new custom objects. You're going to create custom fields. Hopefully you're creating some formulas or getting into flows and creating automation. You need to know your variables and your data types so that you're not racking up more technical debt as you go through these processes and create things in your Salesforce instance. So a date field is quite different from a date time field. They're used in different scenarios. When do you use which? They're not interchangeable. You need to know your outputs. You need to know how data is coming into the system, whether it's just through users entering it, or if you have some type of integration or process that things are being imported. You need to be able to understand what data type to leverage. Another one of my favorite quotes, Kieran Jameson from Women Code Heroes, says that you can think about a variable as a container in which stuff can be stored. Kind of like those handy kitchen storage containers. They come in different sizes to store different types of things. So I feel like you have a mental image here. You've got the tall, skinny one for the spaghetti noodles. You've got the one for the cereal. You've got the smaller size for your sugar, for your coffee. And then maybe the little itty bitty container, the Tupperware, if you're chopping up a garnish or peppers and putting them in the fridge. Same thing as when we create variables. They all have a different storage container. You need to be able to select the right one. So I'd say the most common time that I'm assigning a variable to something is in flow. And this is really important to note because when you create a variable in flow, you want to be able to reference it throughout the flow if you're using it multiple times. You don't want just a single use variable. So you want to be able to assign this correctly, understand what that data type is, and be able to leverage that continuously throughout your automation. All right. This is possibly my favorite of the 4 dev fundamentals because I think it has saved me the most time. I want to start off painting a picture for you. Imagine that you are working at your desk in an office. You're deep in the work. You're maybe creating some of those custom objects, custom fields, really excited about what you're doing. And one of your users comes up to your desk and, I need a report of all of the opportunities that are open for accounts with an industry of hospitality or something relatively straightforward to pull. You go over, you create your reports, and then that user says, great, now from this list right here, I want you to give me some completely unrelated filter that is not in existence on this report type. A couple laughs. Some of us have been there. All right. You have 2 options here. One, you can explain Salesforce data architecture and object structure to your user that most likely does not care. 2, you can skip that altogether and use SQL instead of a report. And that is the tip that I like to give out. I've used this so many times. SQL, to start off with the definition, is Salesforce Object Query Language, and it's you just writing a query of your system. You can do this in the developer console directly in Salesforce, or you can use a tool like Workbench that's going to help you familiarize and get used to building these statements until you feel that comfort level. So to walk through this, you'll see we have select as our keyword. So that is select and then the fields we're looking for. So in here we have select name and email. Those are our fields, and they're from the contact object. That's a SQL statement. That's going to give us a lot of results, right? So what we can do with SQL is we can add on additional elements. You'll see we have a couple additional ones on the screen. Where is like your filters in your reports. So you can say select name, email from contact where, first name equals Kate, last name equals Lassard. Hopefully you just get one of me. You might have duplicates in your org and get a couple. That's all right. Now you know to clean those up too. Limit. you can limit the number of results that you're getting back. So you can say limit by 10 and only get 10 results. Order by. Put them in a specific order. All right. The final fundamental that I want to talk about is keeping your DML out of your loops. We're also going to keep SQL out of our loops. So some definitions to know. DML is database manipulation language. So this is things that you want to do to your records. This is your insert records, your update records, your delete records. So those actions that you want to take. We just talked through SQL, that's our Salesforce object query language. And then loops let us do a function over and over and over again. This is something we encounter pretty regularly and consistently in Flow. So an example might be if you want to loop through all of the open opportunities associated with an account. We're going to go through that account. We're going to go through and loop through those opportunities over and over again. So why is this important? And I made the visual as straightforward as I can. These can look very complex sometimes. You'll see on the left side we have our bad example. Our DML, our update opportunity, update records, is in our loop. So you can see that loop going and then the update records right in the center. This is going to work, but you're probably going to run into some governor limits. So we want to prevent that from happening. We have limits of 100 SQL queries and 150 DML statements in a transaction. So if you have an account with tons of opportunities associated with it, if we stick with our example, we go through this loop, you're going to hit those limits and you're going to fail. If we do what we have here on the right-hand side where we have our loop, we find the opportunities we're looking for, and then outside of the loop, we update our records. The only governor limit that we're worried about hitting is the total limit for transactions in a flow, which is 20,000. It's going to be a lot harder to hit that 20,000 mark than it's going to be to hit 100 or 150. So here we have our bad practice and our good practice. And it's great as you get more comfortable with flows to just get in the habit of doing this right away for every process that you're doing. All right. So those are the 4 dev fundamentals I use every single week as a Salesforce admin. There are plenty more of them out there. I would love to hear from you on LinkedIn, or if you want to send me a message in the Trailblazer community. I'd like to hear what you've encountered and what you use to help you make you a stronger and more experienced Salesforce administrator. If this is all new to you, I have some resources on the board. Our first QR code is a Trailhead module that is geared towards admins. So this is Learn Essential Software Development for Admins. You are the audience. This is going to help you learn some of these fundamentals. In the center, if you're interested in learning more about Rad Women, that will take you to their website and you can get information on eligibility and signing up for a cohort. And then there are tons of blogs out there. Again, if you'd like to learn more, come see me after the session. I'd be happy to share with you. That Women Code Heroes is one of my favorites, though. Again, thank you so much for coming to Dreamforce, for investing in your learning, for coming to this session. I would love to connect with you. And a reminder that feedback is a gift, and I would love if you could take a moment to fill out the survey in the Salesforce Events app and let us know how we did for this session. Thank you all so much.